Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. We have panelists here tonight that are going to talk to you about learning some things in preparation for retirement, or maybe you're already retired and you're thinking about downsizing, or maybe you're a veteran and you're thinking about some benefits. Before we begin, a few housekeeping details. One is that this video is being recorded. So if you know someone who wanted to be able to attend but maybe could not, or maybe after listening you realize there's someone out there who should really hear us or certain parts of it, I just want you to know that it will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our sites. You can definitely find it on my website at severance-howard.com. Another point I want to bring up is that we want questions. Questions are welcomed and they're encouraged. If you have a question, you can actually go down to the bottom of your screen and you will see, if you scroll over it, a Q&A button. If you click on that, that will allow you to ask a question. I promise you that if you have a question, somebody else has the same question and wants to know the answer. So don't be shy, list your questions. At the end of our webinar, we actually leave time for us to answer those. And maybe if it doesn't even quite fit with the topics today, but you're like, hey, I know you cover that area, go ahead and ask. We'll answer the question for you. Another thing is that we will have a gift certificate provided by Colleen Page, who is one of our panelists tonight. It's a $25 gift card, and that will be awarded to one of the attendees later tonight. So we are going to begin, and our first panelist is Jonna Kripe.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, it took me a minute to find my unmute button. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to be focusing on knowing your options as it relates to downsizing and moving. And I'm going to talk to you about three different areas, three different types of things where you might want to know some options. One is as it relates to just actually moving. If you're planning on downsizing and moving to a smaller home, what are your options as far as moving services? Secondly, I'm going to share with you some options for what to do with all of the stuff that you're not going to be moving since you're downsizing, how to get rid of those things, what are some different options for that. And then three, I'm going to share with you some options as it relates to just other resources and how to find help and connections with other individuals that might have knowledge about some of the questions that you have. So first, just very simply, if you're planning on downsizing, one of the key things that comes to mind is moving. I'm going to need to move. So what are my options with moving? And there are really, three, I guess, key options or primary options for moving. One is to do it like you did it in your 20s and have family or friends come and move you. But if you're downsizing, if your friends are your age, they're probably not going to be able to bring the pickup truck over and help you load it up in the truck and move it over. So a lot of times family and friends have aged out and they're not really available to help anymore. The second option is just working with traditional movers, calling a move company, having them come in there with their crew of men. They're going to box it all up. Just everything in the house, box it up, put it in a box, put it on the truck and move it, which is one option. The third option, and then I'm going to kind of compare traditional movers with this third option of working with a senior move manager. And let me just give you a quick definition of what a senior move manager is. This is someone in a business who helps helps you to manage everything related to the downsizing move, the planning, the purging, packing, putting it all back together, donating, shipping things to family. I mean, there's just a million things that are happening when you're downsizing. They're going to help you to oversee that, to coordinate that, and do a lot of the legwork that a traditional mover would do, but they're going to do more. And just to kind of put it into context a little bit, you know, in the past, when we've moved, when we've been in our 20s and have moved, and we've just had friends bring a pickup truck and we're moving, or even when we're in our 30s and 40s and we're moving our families for jobs or promotions or cross country, generally we're moving up. We're moving to a bigger house. We're moving to a place that has more rooms, bigger rooms, more storage, bigger garage space. When you're downsizing, there are a lot of other complexities that come into play, because now you're moving from that large house that maybe you've lived in for 30 years, and you're moving to a smaller space with smaller rooms, with less storage, with no garage maybe. And there's a lot more complexities that go on. And working with a traditional mover who's going to just come in and pack everything and move it and do a good job, there's a lot of complexities with doing a downsizing move that a traditional mover is not going to be able to help with. For example, a senior move manager is going to talk with you about what is the size of your new space and what furniture is going to fit. What furniture do you want to keep? How can we rearrange it to maximize efficiency and storage, and also keep the things that you love? A senior move manager is going to talk with you about how to purge, maybe having some sorting sessions to help you go through the basement, the garage, the closets, because if you've lived in your home for 30 years, and I've seen this with a lot of clients, you just don't even realize how much stuff you've accumulated. A senior move manager is, at least with our company, we have a team of women that are going to do the packing and helping you think through, what am I going to need in the kitchen? I'm moving to a retirement community. I'm not going to be cooking like I used to do. I'm moving to a condo. I'm not going to have the space that I used to, and I'm not going to be doing the yard work and things like that. And so a team of women versus maybe some 24-year-old bloke who's just working at a move company for the summer is not going to be able to help you think through those things. So a senior move manager versus a traditional mover, they're going to be able to help you think through the planning, the purging. They're also going to be able to do the packing and do an equally good job and professional job of packing as does would a traditional mover. Although I will say women on our team are going to be a lot more sensitive to special items, sentimental items, china, things from our grandmothers that we want to make sure gets taken, care of carefully and packed carefully. And then, so those are just some things to think about with your options for moving with a senior move manager versus a traditional moving company. Oh, and one other thing, while a traditional move company will help you unpack, they'll unpack all the boxes. Now they don't put anything away. They'll unpack it to a flat surface. They'll unpack it to all of your countertops. They'll unpack it to all of your tabletops or your bed or countertops in your bathroom, but they're not going to put anything away. The packers and unpackers for a senior move manager are actually going to put those things away. They're going to put it away in a place where it would belong. Your kitchen is going to be put away in an organized and logical manner. Your bathroom toiletries and towels are going to be set up and put away in a logical and organized manner. They're going to hang your clothes in your closet, things like that. So while traditional movers will pack you, move you, and unpack you, A senior move manager option is going to really help you in all areas that are required for a downsizing move. There's just a lot more variables that come into play when you're downsizing than when maybe you have moved in the past. The second area that I want to talk with you about are just different options for getting rid of the things that you are no longer going to take with you. How do you get rid of a lot of extra clothing that you no longer wear, all the kitchen items that you no longer need, the china or the Waterford crystal that you just don't need to keep any longer, and furniture that's just not going to fit in your new space. And there's a variety of options that I'll just run through really quickly, most of which you're probably familiar with, but I'll kind of tell you the pros and cons of each. One option, this is kind of like the, calling friends and family to load up the pickup truck, is selling it yourself on Facebook. It's a little more labor intensive. You need to be a little bit computer savvy with how to work with Facebook Marketplace. You need to do a little research in terms of how your furniture items are going to sell, how to price those things in the marketplace. It's going to be labor intensive in terms of you're going to be dealing with the questions, the people to come and look at your furniture, the ins and outs of people being in your home. It might take longer to sell on Facebook Marketplace, but you're probably going to make a little more money. You're going to recoup all of the money. You're not going to have to cut that commission or that sale price with anyone. Another option for selling are estate sales. The thing you need to keep in mind about a traditional estate sale where they come into your home is estate sale vendors are really looking for houses where there's high volume and high quality. They've got to make it worth their while to do a sale, to prep for a week, to get everything ready in the home, to have their staff there to oversee and organize everything in the home. So they are really looking for high volume, high quality furniture and pieces to sell. It is fairly convenient in that you're not having to really do any work, and it is in your home. So there's a limited amount of inconvenience during the 2 weeks prior when they're kind of setting up and organizing, and then maybe the weekend of which they're having the sale. There is, obviously a commission to be split. I don't know the specifics of that, but any estate sale or on-site auction, which I'll talk about in a minute, that split is going to be anywhere from 60-40 to 50-50, just kind of ballpark. Auctions are another another option for selling furniture. This tends to be one of the more convenient ways because a lot of the auction houses like a Christie's auction or Earl's auction that have their own facilities, they're going to come to your house. They're going to take all the furniture, all of the kitchen, all the art, all the decor, anything that you're wanting to sell. They're going to load it up on their truck in one day. They're going to take it to their site, get it in the cycle. And then, once that auction happens, they're going to send you and cut you a check. That's probably the most convenient and easiest way to get rid of furniture and make some money at it. The other type of auction, and this has really become a lot more popular during COVID, are online auctions. So there are some auction houses, and then some of the ones that I mentioned do it this way as well. But there are other smaller auction houses that will do an online auction where they will come to your home, take pictures, create lots of items that will sell together. For example, they might put all of your garden and yard tools together in one lot to sell as one group. They might take all of your cleaning supplies and cleaning buckets and mops and anything like that and group all of that together. They might group a lot of your kitchen cooking items together and sell that online. Online auctions are good for artwork, crystal, china, things like that that are easy to ship. They usually have a broader market than just if you're doing a local auction where they're just pulling from the local community. Online auctions can often reach not just within and around the state of Indiana, but some of the online auctions can even reach nationally and internationally. So those are some 4 different options for how to dispose of and get rid of furniture and things that you're no longer keeping as you downsize. The last and third area that I wanted to share with you just about knowing your options are just other things that you might not think about. For example, there are, and you probably have some charities of your own, but a lot of times people just automatically jerk to thinking about, well, I'll just take everything to Goodwill. But there's a lot of charities that are available that have really good missions. Thrifty Threads is a resale shop where you can donate clothing and furniture items, and their proceeds go directly to help the Julian Center, which supports women of domestic violence. I always like to refer them to my women clients. What I love about them too is women of the Julian Center who are in the shelter are given vouchers that they can shop at no cost for any of the items that they might need. Oftentimes when you leave a domestic situation like that, you're just coming with the clothes on your back. So I really like that mission. The Mustard Seed is another great resource for donating furniture for people in need. They focus specifically on working with families or individuals who are coming out of a crisis situation, whether it's a fire or they're overcoming an addiction and they're getting into a home or an apartment, maybe for the first time, or they've been helped to find a home and they just have nothing. And the Mustard Seed's focus is on beds, tables, nightstands, furniture that is considered in need, they're not giving away TVs and all these extra things. It's strictly focused on, bedding, tables, couches, things that someone needs if they don't have a stick of furniture. The Humane Society is a great place to donate towels and blankets. And there's just a lot of other resources just through organizations like we have here with our group, where we can refer you to individuals that we know who are dependable, reliable, work with integrity, whether it's an elder care attorney, realtors, financial advisors, Medicare consultants. We've been in the business for a long time and can provide you with other options in other areas where it may not even be related to downsizing. So those are a lot of options that you can make note of as you think about your downsizing move. And I'm going to turn it back over to Anna Howard.
Thank you, Jonna. That was some really great information. I know all of us appreciated hearing it. Downsizing is never easy. Our next presenter is Colleen Page, and she's going to be talking about that wonderful time it is getting ready to be as open enrollment for Medicare.
Hi, everybody. My name's Colleen Page, and I'm a benefit advisor, a senior benefit advisor. So kind of what I want to talk about tonight is just a little Medicare 101 as to when you should sign up, where you should sign up, all that kind of different things. So you should sign up for Medicare usually 3 months prior to you turning 65, unless you're still working and you have insurance with your company. Then you just delay it until whenever you retire. And Part A comes, we've worked all our lives and put into the government all of our money, and Part A now is free. That is their gift back to us. Isn't that wonderful? But Part B, we pay for, and that's $148.50 in 2021. And that, if you're taking Social Security, comes directly out of your Social Security. If you're not taking Social Security, they will bill you every month. So that is Part A and Part B. There is then Part D, which is a drug plan. And you get that if you decide you're going to do traditional Medicare, original Medicare, whatever they want to call that, and then do a Medicare supplement. Because what happens is Medicare pays for 80% of your care. A is for the hospital care, B is for doctor's offices and tests and different things like that. And so Medicare pays 80% of that. So you need to get a supplement to pay for the balance of that. And the supplements are called Plan G or Plan F if you turned 65 before January 1st of 2020. They did away with that plan after January 1st of 2020. So nobody 65. If you were 65 after January 1st of 2020, you cannot sign up for Plan F. The only difference between Plan F and Plan G is that there is a $200 one time a year deductible. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same. The other option is called a Medicare Advantage plan. And the difference between the two is, in an Advantage plan, it is through the insurance company and you have network of doctors that you have to stay in. So it depends on which Medicare Advantage plan you pick. You have networks of doctors, you have co-pays, and you have deductibles. Now your drug plan is, it comes with your Medicare Advantage plan. So you don't have a separate drug plan. Everybody has their own opinions and everybody's different. Every situation is different. I advise that if you have medical issues, when you turn 65 and get on Medicare for the first time, Medicare has to take everybody. They cannot say, well, you have this pre-existing condition, we're not going to take you. They have to take everyone. So if you have any pre-existing conditions, my advice is to not do a Medicare Advantage plan and to do traditional Medicare, original Medicare with the Plan A, the Plan B, and a supplement. Because if you run into problems down the road and you have some expensive things happening and you have heart problems or cancer or anything like that, you won't qualify to get off the Medicare Advantage plan to go on a traditional plan, because you will have to medically qualify to do that. So it's something that you really need to think about, and you need to talk to somebody before you make those decisions, because sometimes once you make that decision, you can't go back. So it's important to make the right decision in the very beginning. The other thing that I will tell you about Medicare is that they have had a $716 billion with a B cut from 2012 to 2022. The biggest portion of those cuts have come between 2020 and 2021 and 2022. Some of the things that they tried to not cut, things that would affect people on a daily basis. Things that they cut are things like observation days. If you were to go into through the emergency room and they decided, we think there's something going on, so we're going to keep you. Well, you make sure that if they're going to keep you, that they don't keep you under observation. You want to be admitted, because if you're there under observation, doesn't mean Medicare won't pay for the observation days. They will. But where people are running into problems is that if you're there under observation and something were to happen, you were to have a stroke or a heart attack or find out you had cancer and needed surgery, if you need rehabilitation afterwards and you're there under observation, Medicare is going to pay $0 for your rehab. So it's very important. Throw a hissy fit, do whatever you have to do to make sure that they admit you. The hospitals kind of are in a catch-22 because they get a big fine if you leave the hospital and then come back within a 30-day period of time for the same problem. They're going to get a big fine. They're also going to get a fine if they keep you and admit you and don't have anything to keep you for 3 days. But the fine's going to be smaller if that's the case. So I always tell everyone, just make sure they admit you. It's really important. And, you know, Medicare does a pretty good job, but they are not the end all be all. And I think some people think that they are. Some of the things that they don't pay for are elder care. if you don't have a long-term care plan, you need to see me or talk to me, because there are other things that you can do besides a traditional long-term care plan. They don't do a very good job paying for ambulatory care. That's a big cut that they've had. So, and the ambulance companies now are all private companies. They got in when the airlines got deregulated, the ambulance companies got in on that. Nobody knows exactly how it happened, but it did, and they're not giving it up. And they have been charging exorbitant amounts of money. And Medicare has 20/20 hindsight. So they can see why you went to the hospital, what happened when you got to the hospital, and did you really need to take an ambulance to the hospital? And if they deem it wasn't medically necessary for you to take that ambulance, they're not going to pay anything. Zero. So a typical ambulance ride right now, you might go 2 to 5 miles, is probably about $750. If you go further than that, it's probably $1,200 to $1,400. And that's even the cities. The cities and the counties are charging as well. If you have to take an air ambulance for some reason, the only Trauma One hospitals in the state of Indiana are all in Indianapolis. So if you live in Crawfordsville or Bloomington or something, and something major were to happen, they're going to call the ambulance, the helicopters, and the helicopter is going to come get you and bring you to Indianapolis. And those rides are about $40,000 or $50,000. So you need to really think about that. We've got some fixes for those kinds of things. So those are things that are really important. The other thing that Medicare doesn't do really well is cancer treatment. Now, that being said, they do the emergency stuff. They do hospital, they do surgeries, chemo, radiation, all of that they do a really good job at. But here's the problem. The problem is that you are going to come home with some sort of a prescription drug, a maintenance drug, or sometimes now they're doing chemotherapy through prescription drugs. Medicare pays $0 for chemotherapy through prescription drugs, and they only pay 30% of maintenance drugs, and those can be super expensive. So I caution people and tell people they may want to get some sort of a cancer plan as well. So those are really the areas of concern when it comes to Medicare. To sign up for Medicare, you want to go to socialsecurityadministration.gov. So it's ssa.gov. That's where you sign up for Medicare. Then after you get all that done and you get your card and your Medicare number, you're going to flip over to medicare.gov and you're going to set up your account. You're going to create your own personal account. And then everything goes through that account. You'll be able to see your explanation of benefits there. You'll be able to see everything that goes on with you. Your drugs will be in there, all of that kind of stuff. So it's important to be able to know to do those kinds of things. You know, ssa.gov to sign up, medicare.gov to create your account. Thank you. And I'm going to pass the torch to Tom Galulu.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Gallulo, certified financial planner with Net Worth Financial Group. And I'm going to piggyback off of Colleen and talk about something that a lot of people feel go hand in hand, and it's Social Security. What are the topics within Social Security that we're going to talk about tonight? Because I have an entire 1-hour workshop we've done on this subject matter. I promise I won't take that long tonight. Try to keep it to 12 minutes or so. But the key things we're going to cover are some important dates. You may have heard the term early Social Security, full Social Security, and maximum Social Security. We'll define those things and see what it implies depending on your date of birth. We're going to talk about, a key thing is when to start taking Social Security. There's a lot of questions, comments, concerns on how to do that. And if you listen to some of the people on the radio, they kind of give you, and the TV, they kind of give you maybe half the answer and don't look at the whole picture. We're going to look at what factors to consider that plays into when you should take Social Security. And the other thing we're going to talk about is taxation of Social Security. A lot of people believe that, hey, I paid for Social Security throughout my working career. It's free in retirement. Well, that's not necessarily the case. So let's start by defining some of the terms. What is early Social Security? for everyone that is age 62, if you're just collecting based on your work history, okay? When is full Social Security? Well, if you're born 1954 and before, it's age 66. If you're born 1960 and after, it's 67. And if you're born during that 6-year period, they add 2 months to every, so it might be 66 and a half, et cetera. All right. When is maximum Social Security? That is at age 70. And there's no reason to wait and delay taking it beyond age 70 because you simply do not get any extra benefit. Those are things to keep in mind. And I'm going to start talking a little bit here about, okay, how much money you might get if you were, let's say, born 1954 and before. So early is 62, full Social Security is 66, maximum Social Security is age 70. So let's assume at the full or the normal age 66, you can collect $2,000 a month. All right. Well, if you collected at age 62, then you have to deal with a 25% discount because you're taking it early and getting it sooner. So that means your maximum Social Security would be $1,500 a month. What they do is for the first 3 years, they take out or they reduce your benefit by 6.67. So the first 3 years is 20%. And then from 63 to 62 is another 5. That's where you get the 25%. So at 66, you get $2,000. At 62, you get $1,500. If you decide to wait till maximum Social Security, you get an additional 8% per year for those entire 4 years, 66 through age 70. And now your maximum benefit will be $2,640 a month. So depending on when you take it, it could be early here where you're getting $1,500, normal $2,000, all the way to maximum $2,640 a month, which the difference between early and maximum is over $1,100 a month, which is a big deal. So a lot of people say, great, Tom, those are some of the things that apply to Social Security numerically. When should I take Social Security? Well, there's a lot of factors to consider. Number one is, how's your health? Are you in good health? Do you have good family history? What's your longevity and life expectancy? Unfortunately, this year I had 3 different clients pass away within 15 days. The Saturday before, they passed away on a Saturday, a Friday, and the following Saturday. And unfortunately, not one of those clients were 70 years old. They all passed away in the age of 66 to 69. So for those clients, if they decided they wanted to wait till 70, well, they would collect very little to nothing. If they were collecting at 62, well, they would have collected many more years. When is the best time to take it? And if you look at things from just a raw numerical number standpoint, the conversion age is around age 80. What do I mean by that? That means whether you're collecting at 62, 66, or age 70, right around age 80, you're going to collect about the same amount of money. Now, obviously, if you're started collecting later, by the time you hit 75 or 80, you'll actually be collecting more money the longer you waited to take Social Security. But you'll hear this stuff on the radio where you'll hear some of these advisors say, don't make a mistake with Social Security where you're leaving tens of thousands or even $100,000 on the table. And they're not necessarily lying or misstating things, but they're only giving you half the story. What do I mean by that? Well, if you need $2,000 a month and Social Security was going to provide $2,000, okay, you're fine. But if you decide to wait and not take Social Security, but you still need $2,000 a month, then the question is, where do you get that money from? And for most retirees, they look at getting it from their investment accounts, their IRAs, their 401ks, et cetera. Well, for the people taking money out of the 401ks earlier, because they're waiting on Social Security to continue growing by taking it at a later age, there's something there called opportunity cost. What I mean by that is the IRA didn't get a chance to grow because you were taking the money out a little bit earlier. And you never, ever hear on the radio the folks taking that factor into account. Why is it important? Because now the crossover period isn't age 80. It's more like age 83 or 84. At the end of the day, the decision still is when's the best time to take retirement. And on this webinar, I can't tell you. You know, my professional opinion is it depends. And once again, it depends on factors like how many other assets do you have? 401k, real estate, farmland that's providing income. What other income might you have in retirement? Maybe you're getting a pension from the government or from your company. You know, and once again, you take into account the key factors of your age, your life expectancy, your family history. I mean, if you're very, very healthy, you may lean towards waiting to take Social Security to get a bigger number for yourself, and or if you're married, for your spouse if you pass away. But if your health isn't good, maybe you want to take it earlier. So some people will come out there and say, well, you always need to wait. I would disagree with that. You really got to analyze what factors are right for your own situation. You know, the other thing you want to consider too is, are you still working? Because if, let's say you're 62 and you're still very much into your career, great. But taking Social Security while you're working a full-time job can be detrimental. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit because that ties into the taxation question. Okay, so a lot of people think, hey, in retirement, Social Security is free. I get it. Don't have to pay any taxes on that money. That, in fact, is not true. That is not the case. And when you think about it, and then people say, well, why is that, Tom? I paid taxes on it my entire career. Well, there's two parts of Social Security. There's the part you put in. That's the employee piece that was deducted from your paycheck. But there's also a corresponding and equal match that your employer has to put in. The employer got a business deduction for it. So therefore, when you get to retirement, that piece is taxable. And then on top of it, the wisdom of our government, they've even increased the taxes on it. So for example, if you're a single person and the income calculation is less than 25,000 at retirement, none of your Social Security is taxable. If it's above 32,000, 85% of your Social Security is subject to taxation. If it's between 25 and 32, then that answer is up to 50% is subject to taxation. If you're married, it's under 34,000, no taxes. 34 to 44, you got to pay up to 50% for taxes, and above 44, then you're dealing with up to 85% is subject to taxation. And that's simply because no one's ever paid tax on the benefit from the employer. That's why the government set up the original amount at 50%. But then later on, the government decided to need a little more tax revenue, so they bumped it up to 85%. So those are things that you have to take into account. If you're still working while you're trying to collect Social Security and you make a, let's say, $40,000 salary, well, that plus Social Security, you may give back in a lot of, or your entire Social Security benefit back to the government. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit because that's the give back rule. So you have to worry about taxation, and then you got to worry about the give back rule. What does the give back rule mean? Well, if your income is over $18,000 when you're collecting, for every $2 you're above it, you have to give $1 of your Social Security benefit back. So if we go back to my calculation or my example, if you make 40 grand, the number's a little above 18, but that's 22,000 above that number, you have to give back $11,000 of your Social Security benefit. Well, if I'm only going to be collecting X amount and I got to give 11 back, why take it that early? Some people ask, do I lose it forever? No, the government adds the benefit back on the back end when you then reach age 66, full retirement, it's a calculation. You don't have to worry about it. But the moral of the story is, if you're going to keep working and making a pretty good salary, shouldn't start collecting Social Security. So you have to worry about the give back rule. You have to worry about the taxation. And then you got to look at a bunch of other factors to figure out, when should I start taking Social Security? And I'd love to tell you there's a perfect age or a perfect answer, but it really depends on everybody's individual situation. It also depends on, are you married or are you single? Because if you're married, obviously both individuals will collect Social Security. When no matter who passes away, the higher of the two Social Security stays, the lower of the two goes away. But if you're single, obviously there's no second Social Security. You're just collecting one. When you pass away, I guess it's not that big a deal from the standpoint you don't have to worry about generating any more income. So married couples tend to have more options to figure out how to massage and manage Social Security, and maybe waiting till later. So the primary person who has the bigger Social Security could collect a higher amount. And no matter who passes away first, that higher amount stays with the surviving person. But once again, there's thousands and thousands of calculations or just different scenarios. What really needs to happen is, your best bet is to talk to somebody who has a good knowledge of Social Security and let them help you figure out what makes sense for your particular situation. Because at the end of the day, financial planning and Social Security, when to take it, that's all an individual decision. So I'd love to give you a perfect answer, but unfortunately there's not one out there. So Social Security and Medicare tie in together quite a bit. And there's many more things we can talk about, but for the sake of time and discussion today, I'm going to just turn it over now to Anna Howard, who's our estate planning and elder law attorney, so she can wrap up the program this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. So I am going to share my screen because I do have a PowerPoint presentation. And as I am working on sharing this and getting it all set up, I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Anna Howard. I am a partner at Severance and Howard's law firm, and we are elder law attorneys. And that means that when you come in and do your estate planning with us, we're going to do it with a focus on planning for long-term care. And whether that is talking about long-term care insurance, or how are you going to take money out of your retirement accounts to pay for care, who to communicate with to best make that decision. Or maybe we're just looking at planning for VA benefits or Medicaid benefits. That's what we do. So, but today what I want to do is focus a little bit instead on one particular program, and that is the VA Aid and Attendance Pension Program. Now, a lot of times when people are thinking about getting veterans benefits, they think about what's called the compensation plan. Compensation is paid to our veterans who are injured during active duty, and then they rate their disability and they get paid on a sliding scale based on their disability. The Aid and Attendance Pension Program is completely different. So this is for our veterans and their surviving spouses. And what this does is it provides a monthly benefit to help pay for care cost. It's never quite as simple as I'm a veteran and I served, so give me money. So we're going to talk about how that program works and how to qualify. So let's see if I can get this to work. So the Aid and Attendance Program, it does pay out a monthly pension. And it just depends on whether you're the veteran, your surviving spouse, and whether you're married, on how much that monthly pension could be. If you are a single veteran, you have no dependents, that benefit is up to $1,936 a month. If you're a veteran and you have a dependent, typically these are older people, so we have our seniors and they're married, that benefit is $2,230 a month. Now, If you are the surviving spouse of a veteran, you could also receive a benefit each month, and that is up to $1,244 a month. So what is this for? It's to help pay for care costs. So it's a great way to help cover at-home care, assisted living care, nursing home care, also adult daycare programs. So who qualifies? The veterans who served during wartime or a conflict of interest period, and the widow of that wartime veteran. So like I said, it's a government program. It's never quite so easy. So there are going to be some tests that we have to pass. It's a 3-part test: the service requirements, there is a disability requirement as well, and then there's a means test. So first, the veteran must have served at least 90 days, with at least one of those days in a declared period of war or conflict. Okay, so you can see up there, we do have some World War II veterans. I'll be honest, I'm usually dealing with their surviving widows, but there are some veterans still out there from World War II that we are helping. Korean conflict is there. The Vietnam War, which now we're seeing more and more of our Vietnam vets who are now in that category where they're moving into assisted living facilities or having to hire in-home health care. And then you'll see down at the bottom, the Gulf War. And the Gulf War currently does not have an end date. It will not end until there's a presidential order or a government order that declares that term period to end. There's also a disability requirement. Okay, now the aid and attendance pension, or the VA pension program, is actually, there's a few steps to it. There's a base pension, which pays much less than the 1936 or the 2240. There's also housebound. So if you're housebound, it gives you a little bit more. And then the aid and attendance is actually the highest benefit you can receive. And the reason for that is because you're saying that in order to continue your life, you need some assistance or aid and attendance with your daily caregiving. For the base pension, this is always beautiful. The VA says you're disabled the moment you turn 65. Or you're permanently totally disabled prior to age 65. Now the aid and attendance, it's going to require some more care needs, we'll say, in order to get the aid and attendance actual pension, which is the highest amount. So for that to be declared disabled, you have to either be in a nursing home, or you need assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living. So what are activities of daily living? It is that you need assistance with bathing, dressing, toiletry, transferring from one sex seat to another. The VA in the last couple of years have actually brought in that a little to include some independent activities of daily living, which includes medication management, meal preparation, laundry services, and housekeeping services. The other care that they say you can use is that you require care or assistance on a regular basis. So what does that mean? We have individuals who suffer from dementia or Alzheimer's. A lot of those individuals, they need to be in a protected environment. They can no longer be at home on their own. They need someone to be around and provide them care or supervision. But let's face it, you can have dementia and you can still be physically fit. You don't need assistance bathing or dressing or toiletry. You can do all of that on your own. You just unfortunately no longer have the mindset to be able to be left alone. And that's what that requires care or assistance on a regular basis allows. So our individuals who have dementia that must move to a memory care unit or an assisted living facility to get care can qualify for this benefit as well, even though they don't need the physical help that others need. Now, there's a course and means test. And that means, let's face it, it is what we call a needs-based program. Okay, it's a government program, it is funded. So they try to give it to people who actually need that extra pension. The VA switched a few years ago, and nowadays what they do is they look at what they consider a net worth asset limit. And that asset limit or net worth limit is $130,773 for either a single person or a couple. Now, those who know the Medicaid rules know that Medicaid says, well, if you're single, you can only have $2,000. And if you're a couple, you can have $130,000. But the VA says, you know what? It doesn't make a difference. A single person only can have $130,000 as well and qualify. We don't make them spend down to $2,000. The other thing is that net worth considers a year worth of your income. Okay. And then they also look at your assets. And so what are countable assets for the VA? Countable assets for the VA is anything that you really have available to you that you can use for money to pay for care. There are exceptions. Your home is exempt. Your home is exempt even if you're not living in it or your spouse is living in it. If you've moved into an assisted living facility because you need care, you can still keep your home. You don't have to live in it. You don't have to rent it out. You don't have to sell it. It is still an exempt asset. All your vehicles are exempt. Household goods and personal effects, those are also exempt as well. Okay, so what they're really looking for is your retirement accounts, your bank account, your investment accounts. They actually do look at the cash surrender value of life insurance because you can cash it out. Those are considered all part of your net worth, along with that year's worth of income. So then you may look at me and say, well, how in the world can we ever meet that limit? We'd have to have a really low income. Well, the VA is nicer. And so what they say is, look, they're going to allow you to deduct up to a year's worth of income, gross income, up to your medical expenses. Okay. So let's kind of play that out. Let's say that you have to move into an assisted living facility and that assisted living facility is $5,000 a month. Okay. That's typical cost of an assisted living facility nowadays. Your income though is only $3,500 a month. And on top of your assisted living, you also have your Medicare Part B premiums you're paying your supplemental policy. Maybe you're paying for long-term care as well. Your prescription drug plan, all of that counts as a medical expense when you're applying for VA benefits. And so that's all just up until your income though gets deducted. And so really what we're left with when I'm working with my clients is I say, okay, let's first prove that your medical costs exceed your income. And then we don't even have to worry about the income anymore. Then we're just looking at the resources. We're looking at those bank accounts, your investment accounts. And then those is what we have to look at for that $130,000 limit. Okay. If you can meet those criteria, then the VA turns around and they give you that extra pension. And that extra pension, again, if we go back to that $3,500 a month and your care is $5,000 a month, well, that extra $2,200, if you're a veteran with a couple, would help cover that cost. Or maybe you're the surviving spouse. Well, that extra $1,244 allows you to just take a little bit less out of that retirement account or investment account. And it's going to allow you to continue to live in that environment and pay for assisted living without having to worry to spend down and apply for Medicaid and have to move facilities. And unfortunately, maybe even have to move to skilled care to cover those costs under the Medicaid program. So this is a wonderful benefit that is out there for our veterans and their surviving spouses. Again, I always love to emphasize that because a lot of people don't realize that the surviving spouse is entitled to it. A little bit about that surviving spouse, though, I always like to point out is one, the widow has to have lived with the veteran when they passed away. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be in the same room with them. Sometimes that veteran, maybe they were in a nursing home and their spouse was at home, but you at least had to have been married at the time of their death. You cannot be divorced. And it's interesting because I've had this happen where I've had an individual who was married to a veteran, they divorced, they married a second person, that person was not a veteran, but then that person died and they remarried and their third person was a veteran. So guess what? They got to get the VA benefits off of that third husband who eventually passed away as well. So that actually worked out for them. So that's just kind of the way that surviving spouse works. So you have to prove that you were married to them at the time of their death. And then the VA always asks for a death certificate of the veteran as well. Okay. The other thing real quick about the military service, I realize I don't think my slide popped up on that one, is that you do have to have been discharged for any other reason other than dishonorable. Okay. Most people are honorably discharged, or they're discharged because of medical reasons. That's fine. But if the veteran was discharged for dishonorably discharged, or was discharged for bad conduct, they will not qualify, and their surviving spouses will not qualify. So when looking into this program, it is going to be really important in order to get a hold of those discharge papers to see exactly how they were discharged. Trust me, people who are dishonorably discharged are not exactly waving that around and letting people know. We've had it happen where we were all ready to apply. We had everything set up. We could not get those discharge papers though for the longest time. We finally got them, and unfortunately he was dishonorably discharged. Reading through it, looks like he hit his commanding officer. So we were not able to get those benefits due to that. So we always help you get those discharge papers when looking into the VA benefit. The VA, like Medicaid, now has a transfer rule. And I'm just going to kind of briefly touch through this. Everyone's always heard about the Medicaid look back period of 5 years. Don't give away money. The Medicaid's going to penalize you. You're not going to be able to pay for care. The VA a few years ago did implement a transfer rule as well, but it's only for 3 years. Okay. The other interesting factor about the VA transfer rule is they only penalize you for transferring assets that were over and beyond the asset limit. Okay, so that $130,000, right? You could have $125,000. You give $25,000 to your child. There is no penalty. There's no transfer. If the VA says that's fine because you already qualified, you would have qualified even if you'd given that money away. So they're okay with it. However, let's say you had $150,000. And we know, again, we had to get down to that $130,000 mark, right? And you decided to give $50,000 away to your child. Well, the VA is going to say, okay, they're going to take the $150,000, they're going to subtract the allowable amount you're allowed to have, that $130,000, and they're going to say, all right, well, you're getting penalized for $19,227 because you shouldn't have given that away. Okay. And the way they calculate it is they divide it by the highest benefit a veteran could receive, which currently is that $2,230. Okay. So with that, I'll tell you, just so FYI, that's about an 8-month penalty. Okay. And what that means is you can still go ahead and apply. The VA will go ahead and still approve you, but they're not going to start your pension check until 8 months. 8 months from when? From when you made the first gift. So if you made that gift and it's an 8-month penalty, but you don't apply for the benefits until a year later, there's no penalty. The reason I bring that up is I want people to understand that yes, there's a transfer rule for the VA benefits, but there is a way to plan for them as well. And it's actually a little bit easier than trying to plan for Medicaid benefits. The other thing is that I have a lot of clients who will use the VA benefits as a way to supplement until maybe that 5-year look back rule has passed so they could apply for Medicaid. It's a wonderful program. It is out there. It is available. Not a lot of people know about it. I am a VA certified attorney. My associate Jackie is also a VA certified attorney. So we are certified. We can go online. We can actually check the status of your applications. We can communicate with the VA and file these and help you get your benefits. And that is what I have for you. We do have a few questions, so I'm going to try to get out of here. And I'm going to ask these questions that we do have. The first question is, Colleen, when is open enrollment?
Open enrollment really is for people with Medicare Advantage plans. Starts October 15th through December 15th, and that is when you can change your Advantage plan. Open enrollment also is when people with original Medicare can change their drug plans. That's October 15th to December 15th. And everyone should look at your drug plans every single year. It's like the Wild West out there with the drug plans. So make sure that you look at it every year.
Okay. Thank you. Then we have one more question. I do know it's 7:30. I'm be compassionate with everyone's time. And this is really for Tom. The question is, or really it was a statement, I'm going to put it in the form of a question for you, is that many states also tax on Social Security. Can you just explain a little bit of what that means?
Well, when I was talking earlier, I was talking about the federal taxation of Social Security benefits. And different states have different rules. There are several where Social Security benefits at a state level are not subject to taxation. But there are other states where, like in Indiana, they take your they take your adjusted gross income from federal taxes, bring that over to the state, and then you calculate your state tax. So, there are states where the calculation of taxation on the federal side for Social Security transfers over to the state side and then becomes taxable as a state benefit. So it varies between all of our states. And that sometimes is even not maybe the final decision, but hey, where am I going to retire? Looking at taxation of, it could be government benefits, it could be Social Security, et cetera. So we just got to kind of know how it works in each state. Sometimes Social Security is taxable in certain states, other states it's not.
Thank you. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us. But before we leave, we do want to give away that $25 gift card that Colleen Page is offering up. And it is a $25 gift card to Target. And the winner is Jim Bards. So Colleen, I will get you Mr. Bards' information and we'll get that over to you. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And this is being recorded and we will get that up on our website. If anybody wants me to email it to them, I am happy to do so. You can reach me at amh@severance.com. And that's also in the emails that you received from Zoom. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.